provide absolute clear evidence that there is something different than what we're suggesting, and if that's the case, he's prepared to look at that, which is obviously open in the spirit of consultation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The time for government orders has expired. Déclaration de député. Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Scarborough Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in the House today to congratulate 42 Division's Community Police Liaison Committee on their very successful 3rd Annual Crime Prevention Conference. This year's theme was on the dangers of drug and alcohol abuse. I was very pleased to see so many youth in attendance learning about the issues of peer pressure, addictions, and how to make smart choices, as well as to hear from someone who had, after making the wrong decisions in life, had turned their life around. It was also inspiring, Mr. Speaker, to hear from Canadian Olympic athlete Ms. Sarah Bonikowski on her motivational presentation and her own personal road to success. The highlight of the evening was congratulating over 30 recipients made up of students, volunteers, law enforcement, and board members on recognition of their community service. I hope all members will join me in the House in congratulating 42 Division's Community Police Liaison Committee on a successful conference and their dedication to serving our community in Scarborough by making it a safer place to live, work, and play. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Mr. Speaker, on the occasion of World AIDS Day, we remember the countless victims of the AIDS epidemic while paying tribute to the many who have devoted their professional work to advancement in treating HIV/AIDS, like Dr. Julio Montana, whose groundbreaking treatment as prevention method has helped turn the tide on the global fight against HIV/AIDS. As we celebrate the many medical advances in combating AIDS worldwide, it's strangely ironic that on this day, C2 also comes back to the House. This is the government's anti-safe injection site bill. If passed as written, this bill has the potential to undo a decade's worth of stemming the spread of HIV and Hep C amongst injection drug users. Research has clearly demonstrated that harm reduction prevents the spread of HIV/AIDS, and we in the NDP will continue to uphold the rights of individuals to health and well-being. On this World AIDS Day, we salute the many organizations and advocates who work tirelessly for a world free of AIDS, both in Canada and globally.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to bring attention to the serious health issue of hepatitis C, an infectious disease that over time causes significant liver damage, leading to liver transplantation or death. Unlike other forms of hepatitis, there is no vaccine for Hep C. It's estimated that several 100,000 Canadians are living with hepatitis C and don't even know it, the bulk of them having been born between 1945 and 1975. Prior to the 1990s, they may have contracted the disease through infected blood transfusions or organ transplants, or the use of unsterilized needles or medical equipment. Thankfully, recent clinical trials indicate that hepatitis C can now be completely cured with new oral therapies. But one needs to be diagnosed and treated early. It's a worthy discussion that anyone should have with their physician, especially if they're in their 40s through 60s. For good liver health, it's worth getting this checked out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Centre.
Mr. Speaker, today is World AIDS Day. AIDS is the world's leading infectious disease killer. WHO reports 39 million deaths since 1981. Today, 35 million people live with HIV, mostly in low and middle income countries. 24.7 live in sub-Saharan Africa alone. 3.2 million with AIDS are children under 15. Despite advances in science and significant efforts by the global health community, most people with or at risk for HIV have no access to prevention, care and treatment. While progress has been made in preventing mother-to-child transmission, there is still no cure. British Columbia plays an important role in the prevention and treatment of HIV/AIDS. The HoC program, available to every positive resident in BC, has seen a drastic drop in the number of new infections annually. The world calls BC's program treatment as prevention, since after the second dose, the virus is absent from the bloodstream and cannot be passed on. China, Brazil and the UK and Austria have adopted BC's program, yet Canada's federal government has yet to acknowledge its existence.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack, Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House today to highlight an important event taking place in my riding, Chilliwack's first ever food mob. Like the cash mobs that started in late 2011, a food mob uses social media to encourage individuals to arrive at a set location at a specific date and time. Unlike the cash mob, where participants are encouraged to spend cash to support a local business, participants in a food mob are encouraged to make a donation of a non-perishable food item. The whole idea of a food mob is the brainchild of Chris Reitzma, who became concerned when he learned that the shelves at the Salvation Army Food Bank were nearly empty. Chris and others want to harness the power of social media to mobilize the entire community into addressing this pressing need. There are two ways to help. First, to make a donation of a non-perishable food item at the Salvation Army Food Bank warehouse in Chilliwack on Saturday, December 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. The second is to spread the word of the food mob on your Facebook and Twitter accounts. Together in the spirit of the season, I encourage those who are able to give and make this a great Christmas for everyone.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie. Mr. Speaker, last weekend, Montreal's Percival Molson Stadium hosted an event that made me and all Montrealers very proud. After a thrilling game, the University of Montreal Carabins won the Vanier Cup, the top prize in Canadian university football for the first time in their storied history. In a tense game, players from both teams, the Carabins and the Marauders, showed courage and determination. They are an inspiration to all of us. For the Carabins, Saturday's victory is the culmination of a remarkable season and an exceptional playoff run. Teamwork from the players and the coaches is at the heart of this great success. On behalf of myself and all Montrealers, congratulations.
The Honourable Member for Nipissing-Timiskaming.
Get your seats now. It's a chance to float in zero gravity, to experience weightlessness, the same feeling as astronaut Chris Hadfield felt on the ISS. Yes, indeed, in second quarter 2015, these affordable zero-gravity flights, the most inexpensive in the world, will be available in Nipissing-Timiskaming, right from the airport in North Bay, in a modified Airbus 340. The international tour will include several other locations. North Bay is the sole Canadian location. In March of this year, Swiss Space Systems S3 partnered with Canada Aviation to test and launch the suborbital satellites in our region. This is an opportunity to market the company as well as generate interest in space. Our government encourages private-public partnerships and private sector growth in Canadian space industry. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to be a member of a government that is providing great opportunities like this game changer for my region. Because of our government, Nipissing-Timiskaming, in fact, North Bay is taking off.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, what a football game we saw yesterday. I mean, really, I think that my heart is still palpitating from those final coronary-inducing moments. And I want to congratulate our Calgary Stampeders for their 2014 Grey Cup win, a hard-fought win over the tough and gritty Hamilton Ticats. You know, like many football fans yesterday, I was glued to my screen, except I was waiting to board a plane to Ottawa. And when we were sitting at the gate, I don't think there were very many passengers on that plane who had their phones turned to airplane mode yet, because when the final seconds ticked off, there was this huge cheer of victory. Our hats are off to both teams for their amazing accomplishments and also for providing us with a really, really thrilling football game. Especially, I want to commend Bo Levi, who is magical with 10 consecutive completions. And tomorrow, we'll get together in Calgary's Olympic Plaza to give these returning heroes a grand rally. We're very, very proud of you. Good work, Stampeders.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton, Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, I hear there's actually a lot going on in Dog River, Canada's favourite fictional small town. Tonight marks the Ottawa premiere of Corner Gas the Movie, after a super fan-based Kickstarter-funded debut in Saskatoon. I'm delighted to share that the entire cast of Corner Gas is returning after their 6 amazing seasons of the show. It all began with Brent's first words, "Want me to fill it up?" People from all walks of life have connected with the characters. That's what makes Corner Gas so popular, including fans in more than 20 countries. Canadian star Lorne Cardinal, or as fans know him, Davis Quinton, said in Saskatoon, the audience loved it. They laughed where they're supposed to, teared up where they're supposed to, and gave a standing ovation at the end. Mr. Speaker, I invite all of my colleagues in this place to join me tonight at the showing to find out what's going on for Brent, Lacey, Hank, Davis, Karen, Wanda, Emma, and of course, Oscar.
The honourable member for Niagara West, Glanbrook.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a Canadian, I was very proud this weekend to see Canada's continued leadership in the fight to save the lives of mothers and children in the developing world. This past weekend, as La Francophonie elected a Canadian to be its Secretary General, Michaëlle Jean, our Prime Minister and Minister for International Development, announced crucial vaccinations and life-saving nutritional improvements. Organizations like Micronutrient Initiative work on Canada's contribution that will help deliver and administer 400 million vitamin A and zinc supplements per year to children under the age of 5 and increase the production of iodized salt to reach at least 120 million people per year. As the Prime Minister noted, in Canada, our newborns and children do not face death from malnutrition. In 2014, we have the means to prevent so many needless deaths. Mr. Speaker, this government can and will continue to fight for the many mothers and children throughout the developing world. It's because of our Prime Minister's dedication and commitment to saving the lives of mothers and children worldwide that Canada is continuing in its global leadership and saving the lives of women, mothers, and children globally. Thank you.
The honourable member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, at the 15th Summit of La Francophonie, government leaders from around the world officially designated Michaëlle Jean as Secretary General. It's with great joy that Canadians, and particularly Francophones from across Canada and Canadians of Haitian origin, welcomed this nomination. The first woman to become Secretary General. She's also the first non-African person to become Secretary General of La Francophonie. This choice indubitably will have a great effect on La Francophonie for years to come. She will give a voice to women, to young people, for a more egalitarian, more solid, and more economically strong Francophonie. In a world troubled by many things, the choice of this strong woman, who will work for freedom and social justice, is a strong symbol and for the future of women and democracy.
Mr. Speaker, today I was happy to engage in debate around Bill S6, the Yukon and Nunavut Regulatory Improvement Act. This act is going to be designed to help move the Yukon along and invest in resource and development projects where they're still safe for the environment and for the community. Mr. Speaker, this legislation touches on every piece of Yukoners' life, from community development, community roads, recreational centers, housing developments, agriculture projects, and small and large-scale development. Not only are these critical community developments important for fundamental health and well-being of Yukoners, they're an important source of jobs and income. And Mr. Speaker, the Yukon is definitely proud to do its part in our nation by contributing to our development and our growth by supporting our communities and our resource projects that protect our environment. And it's this government, Mr. Speaker, that understands those two things are not mutually exclusive. And while we move forward studying this important piece of legislation, I look forward to getting support from the opposition to bring this issue right to our territory, to hear from Yukon people on how we can best make this a great piece of legislation for our future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Ottawa-Vanier. Mr. Speaker, yesterday in Dakar, governments from around the world who are part of La Francophonie decided that a Canadian born in Haiti, the Right Honourable Michaëlle Jean, would be the next Secretary General of La Francophonie. Ms. Jean was Governor General of Canada for many years. She was a special envoy for UNESCO to Haiti following the earthquake, and since 2012, she is Chancellor of the University of Ottawa. With the 57 member states and 23 observer countries, La Francophonie represents 900 million men and women who share universal values and the French language. The Francophone and Francophile community is getting bigger every day in numbers and diversity around the world. Madame Jean will represent that diversity, and she will also amplify the role of women and young people in our community, and she will also increase the importance of La Francophonie in economic development around the world. Congratulations, Michaëlle. As your member, and on behalf of all of my colleagues, I would like to congratulate you for this very well-deserved honor.
The honourable member for Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, families in my riding of Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry have to make decisions every day on how to best plan for their future, be it education for their children, retirement, or how to make ends meet. That is why our Conservative government continues to cut taxes to Canadian families. Every family in my riding will stand to benefit from our latest tax breaks, including the increase in expansion of the universal child care benefit to nearly $2,000 per year for every child under 6 and $720 for every child between 6 and 17. While we are giving benefits directly to families, the NDP and the Liberals have said that they not only oppose these benefits, but would put the money into the hands of big government bureaucracies. Our government trusts Canadians to spend and save their own earnings based on their own priorities. The Liberal leader has already pledged to reverse family tax cuts, forcing all families with children to pay more. That is his plan. Our plan, Mr. Speaker, is to help every family with children by putting more money into their pocket.
The Honourable Member for Northwest Territories.
The people of Rankin Inlet don't need to deal with a lawsuit from their own Member of Parliament. But that's what counts as representation from a Conservative Member of Parliament. The Minister of Environment's first response when she heard about people eating out of the dump was not to provide help. We heard her first response, shouting in the House that the story wasn't true, repeatedly. The Auditor General's review of Nutrition North showed that the program was not based on the needs of every community. There are 50 needy communities that get nothing from the program. The Conservatives keep claiming that food prices are going down. The Auditor General says that those numbers cannot be verified because, quote, the department did not systematically verify the accuracy of prices reported. It's time to end the charade. It's time for the member of Nunavut to do something other than sue her constituents. Canadians deserve better.
The Honourable Member for Labadinière, Chute de la Chaudière. Mr. Speaker, it was with great pride yesterday that Canadians learned that Michaëlle Jean was named the new Secretary General of La Francophonie. Over the coming years, she will foster new opportunities, implement a new economic strategy for La Francophonie, and promote French, the language of Canada's birth, so that Francophones around the world can develop stronger ties and communicate, dialogue, and prosper. Canada is already heavily involved in La Francophonie as the second largest donor nation and through projects such as the Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health Initiative. Michaëlle Jean is the first woman to lead La Francophonie and is unquestionably the right person to meet the challenges of the future and succeed the esteemed Abdou Diouf. With a focus on the economy and preserving cultural traditions, she is a beacon of hope for Francophones worldwide. With her many strengths, her experience, her charisma, and her determination, she will work for a better world. Together, Francophones and Francophiles around the world, we congratulate Michaëlle Jean. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Auditor General conclusively found that, quote, Veterans Affairs Canada is not adequately facilitating timely access to mental health services. All that at a time when the Minister of Veterans Affairs announced new funding over 6 years. But the fact is, the funding is over 50 years. In a moment of great cowardice, he then fled not only from his responsibilities, but also from the country. Isn't he ashamed of himself? Will he apologize for telling the opposite of the truth? Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in our continued effort to improve veterans' benefits and programs, I recommended that the Auditor General should review our mental health program, and I fully accept his valuable recommendations. Mr. Speaker, I attended a very moving commemoration in Italy involving those soldiers that were there during the war, saw them visit the graves of their comrades in the various cemeteries. And I'm very proud of having done that, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely.
And in my world, lest we forget means something.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How about showing up for work and taking care of them when they're alive?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Quelle lâcheté!
Such cowardice. The minister refuses to take responsibility.
Order. Je pense que le mot lâche.
I think the word cowardice is not helpful in this debate. I think it's a term that causes some disorder. So I recognize the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. He refuses to take responsibility. He should stop hiding behind those who've served this country, Mr. Speaker. It's not just veterans who think that. The Auditor General says that the minister is unable to ascertain whether his strategy is successful and if veterans' mental health needs are actually being met. How is it that the Prime Minister still has confidence in someone with so many defaults as a minister? Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
General actually found that Veterans Affairs spends $500 million each and every year with a mental health strategy in place, with valuable mental health supports like the one-on-one case management. And while we have already taken action to improve the services and delivery, I can assure the member that we will move forward on the Auditor General's advice to continue to improve the veterans' quality of life as well as their families, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After holding back $1.1 billion in funding for vets, the minister blatantly misled Canadians when he announced $200 million for mental health over 6 years, when he knew that the truth was that it was over 50 years. He knew that. And while a scathing Auditor General's report was released about him and his mismanagement of his department, he showed dereliction of duty by fleeing the country. So, will the minister for once do the honourable thing and resign?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, our government introduced a significant improvement to mental health programs for Canadian veterans and their families right around this country. Our announcement will open 8 new sites across Canada where veterans can get military-geared mental health treatment, partnered with the Mental Health Commission and the Royal Ottawa Hospital on cutting-edge mental health research, opening 7 military family resource centres to medically releasing veterans, Mr. Speaker, and our work has continued from 2006, while the party opposite has consistently voted against our initiative.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Billions of dollars have been lost by Canadian farmers since the Conservatives blindly dismantled the wheat board and lost the ability to get grain to market. In fact, Mr. Speaker, they admit that it's their own fault because they don't even dare fine CN because they know it's their fault. Now it's being reported that the Conservatives plan to sell the headquarters, rail cars and freighters of the wheat board to the lowest corporate bidders, and that private sector investor will assume control and the federal treasury won't even be reimbursed. Can the Minister of Agriculture at least release the financials of the wheat board so Canadians can know whether or not they're getting their money back?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
You know, Mr. Speaker, the only more pathetic than that question were the first 3 that he asked here today. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, what the CWB is planning on doing is capitalizing with a partner from outside the country, inside the country, whoever the successful bidder is, to make themselves stronger, to actually have a better footprint throughout Canada, as they've been doing. They've been buying facilities in Thunder Bay to help their exports. They're looking at an entity to come in and help them capitalize and continue to expand that strong response in Western Canada. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That was a winner. Mr. Speaker, on Wednesday,
We're only 4 questions in, and I fear like we're headed in a more difficult direction than I know I would certainly appreciate. So I'll ask members to come to order now. Now they've got it all out. We can proceed. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, now that they're on a roll, let's talk about the Environment Minister, Mr. Speaker. On Wednesday, we all heard her shameful response when she heard about people scavenging out of a landfill in her own riding. She shouted from her seat that it wasn't true. Now she's suing local authorities in Rankin Inlet for daring to say that it is. So let's look at that style of crisis management. Deny the truth, then deny that you're denying the truth, and then personally attack the leaders who dare to tell the truth. Will she apologize today to the people of Rankin Inlet for disrespect, her threats, and her dishonesty?
I'm sure the Leader of the Opposition knows that dishonesty is a word that has been deemed to be unparliamentary. I don't know if the Minister wants to rise, but if not, we'll move on to the Honourable Member for Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Veterans Affairs failed to deliver over $1 billion in support for veterans, which was promised by the government and voted on by this Parliament. He closed 8 specialized service centres across the country. Veterans are forced to wait months, even years, for the most basic mental health services. When a new program gets announced, the minister misleads veterans by claiming it'll be delivered in 6 years when it's really spread over 50 years. There is no trust or credibility left, Mr. Speaker. Will the minister simply stop the travesty and resign?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are in fact making substantial improvements that are generating better outcomes for Canadian veterans, such as increasing investment while expanding rehabilitation and retraining, faster record transfer between National Defence and Veterans Affairs, better medical treatment starting with better research. This is all part of our effort to make things better for Canadian veterans, especially those in greater need, and their families, Mr. Speaker.
Here. For Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, the longer this minister clings to this government, the worse they both look. His portfolio has been grossly mismanaged, and when the Auditor General blows the whistle, the minister is AWOL. Worse still, he's fighting veterans in court, denying any special obligation to respond to their needs. He insults 90-year-old veterans who have the courage to complain. He runs away from the spouse of a PTSD sufferer. He refuses to take any responsibility, so surely the Prime Minister must. To prevent any more trouble for veterans, will the Prime Minister fire this failed minister?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, while the opposition resort to exploiting veterans, fear-mongering, and mudslinging, we on this side of the House are continuing to make real, tangible improvements to the mental health programs and other resources available to veterans and their families. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we need to take any lessons from that party.
Next, well said.
The Honourable Member for Westmount Ville-Marie.
Mr. Speaker, the incompetence of the Minister of Veterans Affairs is staggering. He closes 8 service centres over veterans' objectives. He holds back $1 billion, while the government wastes $743 million on self-promotion. He misleads veterans by suggesting $200 million would be spent over 6 years, when it's actually 50 years. It's clear the minister is incapable of fulfilling his mission. When is the Prime Minister going to sack him? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I had indicated earlier, our government introduced a significant improvement to mental health programs for Canadian veterans in this country. We have redirected resources to the front line where they, in fact, will achieve the best possible outcome for our veterans. We've opened 8 new sites across Canada where veterans can get military-geared mental health treatment, partnered with Mental Health Commission on various programs, And we are, in fact, Mr. Speaker, working very, very closely with other agencies and other partners to continue our good work.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, James Bay, Nunavik, Ayu. Mr. Speaker, we're facing a real food crisis in the North due to the failure of the Conservative Nutrition North program. In the community of Rankin Inlet, 50 to 100 residents are reduced to scavenging for food at the dump. But instead of helping them, their own Member of Parliament is threatening them with legal action. It's shameful. Will the Minister drop the legal bullying tactics and do something to help? Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those allegations are completely false. Let me tell the House the record of the NDP on investments in the North. Mr. Speaker, the NDP continues to vote against investments that would benefit Northerners. For example, the Inuvik-Tuk Highway, which would significantly reduce the cost of shipping food to the North, investments in job training that would provide opportunities for Northerners to get the training they need for good jobs. That party continues to vote against those types of investments on a regular basis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, James Bay. Mr. Speaker, my record over the past 30 years is quite a bit better than hers. Mr. Speaker, I have no lectures to take from the Minister. Does the Minister actually believe that people being forced to pay 10 times more for milk or to scavenge at the dump is indicative of a program that's working? Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact is that this Conservative government is taking the initiative with Nutrition North to make sure that remote and isolated communities have access to affordable food. The results are...
Order. The Minister of Aboriginal Affairs is answering the question. Members need to come to order and listen to the answer. The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs. Order! Order! The Honourable Minister has the floor now.
Mr. Speaker, the problem with these people is that they don't know how to listen to others. They like listening to themselves, but not to others. Under Nutrition North, that program is going to be improved.
Out of time now. The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Cowichan.
Mr. Speaker, the community of Rankin Inlet deserves more than lawsuit threats from their own Member of Parliament. They need to see action to fix the badly broken Nutrition North program. The Auditor General showed that there is no assurance that the subsidy isn't just ending up with retailers, and the numbers the government is quoting cannot be verified. Why not replace this ill-designed program with something that actually matches the needs of Northerners?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, it is this Conservative government that introduced Nutrition North with the objective of increasing access to healthy food to people in isolated and remote communities. The Auditor General made recommendations which the Department has agreed will implement, and this will build on the success of this program, which has already seen nutritious food being increased in volume of shipment by close to 25%, and the food basket for an average family of 4 going down by $110 a month.
Excellent. The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Cowichan.
Mr. Speaker, it sounds like we're reading different Auditor General reports. Food prices in the North are not going down. Ask any Northerner who has to purchase fresh produce at often 10 times the price that we pay here. Ask the Auditor General, who has questioned the numbers used by the Conservatives because, quote, the department did not systematically verify the accuracy of prices reported. Can the Minister tell us how the government plans to make sure that every Northerner has better access to food?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
The government will continue implementing Nutrition North program and will build on its success by implementing the recommendations of the Auditor General. I mean, what more can you do to ensure the effectiveness of a program? And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that
Order. This is now taking up a great deal of time. I'm going to have to find the time elsewhere if members don't come to order and let the minister finish answering the question.
Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is that notwithstanding what the Auditor General has pointed to, the program has been successful into increasing the shipment of nutritious food to northern communities and reducing the cost of the food basket.
The honourable member for Welland.
Speaker, we now know what the Conservatives' plan is for the Wheat Board, what it really is all about. The fact the board has assets, they have rail cars, they have real estate, they have freighters, but the minister comes to the Ag Committee and says, well, actually, they don't have any assets. They're just over-leveraged. In fact, they're almost bankrupt. They don't have any money at all. What a plan. But then, of course, as Assistant Deputy Minister in the next hour of testimony says, well, not really. What really is going on is they're not over-leveraged and they're actually paying out of their own financials on an ongoing basis. So clearly, this government has some sort of hidden agenda for the Wheat Board. They intend to sell it off to the lowest bidder that will give no money back to the public treasury. Worst of all, no money back to the farmers. Why not?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I said no such thing at committee. What I said was the so-called assets are heavily leveraged. They have a building in Winnipeg worth some $10 million, according to real estate appraisals, that is on the books at $14 million because there's been some renovations done. They had a $75 million computer system that isn't needed anymore. They had over $200 million worth of pension payouts that were required. So all of these things start to add up, Mr. Speaker. The boats that he talked about, there was a deposit of $20 million against a $150 million loan. So there's a lot of money that's needed to be paid out, Mr. Speaker. There was some contingency monies, which has never been farmers' money. In fact, the board under the old Liberals went to court to prove that their raison d'etre was orderly marketing, not price premium.
The Honourable Member for Welland.
Mr. Speaker, we witnessed last fall what really happened when it came to the rail companies in this government. The government stood tall and said, well, we're going to be tough with the rail companies, they said. The reality, well, grain really didn't move. They said that the fines would be weekly. Well, now, or daily, now they're going to be weekly. So $300,000 a day became, well, maybe $300,000 a week. Now what we find out is they haven't fined anyone yet. Really? Not one rail company's been fined. Wow. CN didn't meet its targets. The company didn't hold them to account. When will the minister stand on her feet and say, the fines have been levied, the fines have been collected, and we're going to stand for farmers? Because right now they're not.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, Minister of Transport.
The member knows, Mr. Speaker, that the enforcement process is underway, but what this government has continued to do is stand with the farmers, Mr. Speaker. An order in council that has been extended, that's more action, Mr. Speaker, more grain that's guaranteed to be moved by the rail companies, Mr. Speaker, and if they don't, they'll face the full force of law.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. The Conservatives' former Quebec lieutenant is in hot water again. According to CTV, $25,000 from SNC-Lavalin executives found its way into the coffers of the Minister of International Development's Riding Association. Is the Minister for Democratic Reform concerned about these latest revelations, given that the Charbonneau Commission and Operation Hammer clearly showed SNC-Lavalin used proxies to circumvent the ban on corporate donations?
Very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you know, when we were brought into office, we brought into place the Accountability Act. That was a response, of course, to the Liberal sponsorship scandal. Mr. Speaker, we took the influence of big money and big unions out of the political process. Mr. Speaker, we expect all those who donate to all political parties to follow the law, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Kay.
Speaker, it's part of the administrative responsibility of government to ensure a strong Canada Election Act. So when we learned that SNC-Lavalin set up a scheme of illegal donations aimed at putting corporate money into certain political hands, I'm hoping the Minister of International Development will reassure the House. When he saw thousands of dollars being transferred from SNC executives, did this not raise an eyebrow? Will the Minister explain if he's had any relationship with SNC? Has his staff met with him? What has been the nature of his relationship since the transfer of that money?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Again, Mr. Speaker, as you know, we banned corporate and union donations from the political process. Mr. Speaker, we expect any individual that makes donations to a political party, we expect them to follow the law, Mr. Speaker. That's why we were so disappointed on this side of the House when we learned that the NDP accepted $300,000 worth of illegal union donations, Mr. Speaker, and were forced by Elections Canada to return that fund, Mr. Speaker. Of course, they still owe the Canadian taxpayers over $1.5 million for illegal satellite offices in provinces where they have no members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure Canadians are as anxious as we are to have that money returned.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Well, I always appreciate my honourable colleagues' travels up in the upper sphere. I'd like to remind him that under Section 404 of the Canada Elections Act, you're not allowed to hide the identity of a contributor, particularly if it's a political donation. So we have the Ministers' Riding Association receiving $30,000 in transfers, $25,000 which come from SNC Lavalin executives. Now here's the kicker. And illegal political financing was actually included in the job description of several SNC managers. Surely, my honourable colleague shares my concern about this. Will he join us in calling for an investigation?
The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Again, Mr. Speaker, it was this party that actually took out the influence of big money and big unions from the political process when we banned those donations, Mr. Speaker. It was one of the first things that we did when we came to office in 2006, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, of course, the NDP broke that rule when they accepted $300,000 worth of illegal union donations, Mr. Speaker. Of course, this House has also found them guilty of taking some $1.5 million worth of funds allocated for nonpartisan purposes of the taxpayers of this country and using it for partisan political purposes in areas of the country where they actually have no members of Parliament and they still have yet to pay Canadian taxpayers back that money. I hope they'll do so very soon, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, like the veterans, serving forces members are also being denied adequate help for their mental health needs. The department's top doctors have pleaded for action, but today dozens of positions at military bases like Shiloh and Petawawa are still vacant. And access to information request has revealed this ongoing shortage is because the Conservatives are simply refusing to pay the going rate. Unbelievable. Why are the Conservatives shortchanging our injured soldiers and making them wait for urgent mental health support?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, unlike under the previous government, we have doubled the number of mental health workers who are employed by the Canadian Armed Forces, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, we have 6 uniformed psychiatrists, 2 are enrolled in a 4-year training program, 25 uniformed social workers, 13 mental health workers, 7 chaplains. 93% of the mental health positions are now filled by the Canadian Armed Forces. We're getting the job done to support our men and women in uniform. Mr. Speaker, unlike the Liberals.
The honourable member for York West.
When Conservatives are slashing veterans programs and old age security, Canadians rightfully expect accountability for how taxpayers' money is spent. Despite this, the Auditor General has again confirmed that this government's fiscally incompetent. Take the 2009 auto bailout, which we supported, but we certainly didn't expect a blank check with no conditions. Can the Prime Minister explain to Canadians how he spent $9 billion of taxpayers' money and no oversight?
Good question.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the steps that were taken by the government helped to save literally thousands of jobs in the auto industry and, of course, tens of thousands of dollars in the broader economy. I understand that the Liberals don't share the same focus on the economy and the same focus on ensuring that Ontario's manufacturing sector is healthy, but we're very proud of the accomplishments we delivered in order to ensure that our auto sector, our manufacturing sector, is strong in the face of a very challenging, changing global economy. It reflects the strength of the Canadian economy overall.
Honourable member for Trinity Spadina.
Mr. Speaker, a report released in Winnipeg indicates that close to 5,000 seniors will lose their housing due to this government's inability to renew the co-op housing agreements. Where is the junior minister on this file? Missing in action. But it doesn't stop there. Across Canada, mayors and premiers are on the same page when it comes to issue after issue. In Ontario today, new mayor John Tory met with the premier. Where's the Prime Minister on this file? Missing in action. The Minister of Infrastructure, he's not just missing in action, the funds are actually missing. There's been a 90% cut to infrastructure funding. Missing in action. When will the Prime Minister meet with the Premier and get down to business?
The Honourable Minister of State for Social Development.
Well, Mr. Speaker, here's what we're doing. We've signed our investment in affordable housing with the provinces. We trust the provinces and their ability to address their housing needs. Here's who we don't trust, the member from Trinity Spadina. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, when he was a councillor in Toronto, there was a shelter that was supposed to cost $5 million. Under his watch, it ballooned to $12 million. Is that very good use of taxpayers' dollars to build shelters? Absolutely not. That's why we're not going to count on the
Mr. Speaker, this government's instinct for secrecy has reached new and absurd heights. A newly revealed memo released under an ATIP shows that when telecom companies decided to tell the public how often they share subscriber information with the police and intelligence officials, this was flagged as a security concern, and the minister's officials scrambled to figure out how to limit what information the telecoms could disclose. Why does the minister continue working against data disclosure transparency rather than for it?
Hear, 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 hear.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Well, Mr. Speaker, our government takes the privacy of law-abiding Canadians very seriously. And in the meantime, we are always looking at ways we can make sure that our law enforcement agencies have the tool they need to protect Canadians. And I hope that when we do so, we can count on the support of the opposition. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Alfred-Pellant. We knew that the government is not a model of transparency, but this is a new low, Mr. Speaker. Telecommunications firms want to disclose how often they share information on their subscribers with the police, but the government is blocking them, supposedly for reasons of security. Why is the minister preventing telecommunications firms from being transparent? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, as I said, our government takes the protection of law-abiding Canadians seriously, of their privacy, and we expect law enforcement authorities to abide by the rules, but we also want to be able to count on the support of the opposition when we put in place measures that will increase the safety and security of Canadians under legislation. The Honourable Member for Pont-Neuf-Jacques-Cartier. Mr. Speaker, recently publicized documents show that hundreds of cases of sexual assault, abuse, and harassment were reported within the cadet program, which is funded by the federal government. Despite these allegations, investigations often run out of steam, and charges are rarely laid against the aggressors. Was the minister aware of these reports, and what are the measures being taken to investigate? The Honourable Minister of Labour.
Speaker, violence against women and girls, against any Canadian, is just simply unacceptable in our society, and it won't be tolerated. The Government of Canada has been committed to ending such violence and supporting victims. So whether that be our Safe Streets and Communities Act, whether that be our new legislation to uphold the rights of victims, this government is very focused on making sure that we support victims and put those that should be behind bars behind bars. We encourage the opposition to get on board, make sure that we're putting criminals in their place and supporting victims.
The Honourable Member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about gravely serious allegations of a pattern of sexual assault, abuse, and harassment spanning 4 decades. This involved young people between 12 and 18 participating in the cadet program on Canadian Forces bases, and includes cases involving Canadian Forces personnel. We have a solemn responsibility to protect these young people. How long has the Minister of Defence been aware of these allegations, and what action is he taking to deal with this horrific situation?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
We take any allegations like that with the utmost seriousness. Allegations of sexual harassment and sexual harassment in the military or in the cadets or anywhere else within our armed forces are truly disturbing, and we will act on them. The CDS will investigate and look at any allegations, Mr. Speaker, in this area, because this is completely unacceptable to all Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Orleans.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, La Francophonie is the most important organization in the world when it comes to promoting the French language and culture, and it plays a vital role in improving the economy and human rights. Like many Canadians, I was very happy to learn that my friend, the Right Honourable Michael Jean, was elected Secretary General of this prestigious organization. Could the Minister of Official Languages and Heritage tell the House about the activities that took place this past weekend at the Francophonie Summit? The Honourable Minister. It was a big weekend for Canada. a Canadian was elected as the Secretary General of the Organisation of the Francophonie. We are delighted that a woman has been elected for the first time to head this organization, and the Quebec Premier said that our Prime Minister launched a very major campaign to support her, and we are very happy at the fact that this lady will promote French culture and diversity of Canada throughout the world. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker.
Mismanagement has had grave consequences for Ontario. As good jobs have disappeared, nearly 400,000 Ontarians have been forced to rely on food banks every month. They're doing this just to put food on the table. And most shockingly, the number of Ontario families forced to walk into a food bank for the first time ever rose 20% over the last year. Counting on food banks to feed families is not a good economic strategy. Why have the Conservatives allowed this to happen?
Here. The Honourable Minister of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. Under our Conservative government, we have seen a major reduction in poverty, child poverty, from a high of 18% under the Liberals to 8.5% in 2011. In fact, nearly 1.4 million fewer Canadians are living in poverty under this government. Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons for that is the universal childcare benefit, and it's putting money directly in the hands of Canadian families. What David Morley said about this is he said this kept money in circulation. Money goes to poor families. That tends to be spent on children, and then it kept money circulating in the economy as well. That kind of investment in children is so important. We agree with that.
The Honourable Member for Parkdale High Park.
Mr. Speaker, nearly 400,000 Ontarians using food banks every month is all you need to know about the Conservatives' economic record. That says it all. Conservatives have let hundreds of thousands of good jobs disappear while the number of precarious jobs has increased. 1.7 million jobs in Ontario are considered insecure. Now we have a situation where people working full-time need to use food banks. So where's the government's action plan to reduce food bank use and poverty in Ontario?
The Honourable Minister of State for Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government is responding to the social needs. We've increased social transfers to the provinces. Ontario will receive $19.2 billion in federal transfers this year, an increase of 76% over the old Liberal government. Mr. Speaker, almost $2 billion through equalization, $12.3 billion through Canada Health, but $4.8 billion to the Canada Social Transfer. Mr. Speaker, those are transfers that help people, help poverty, and help find jobs.
Have an update of Hull-Aylmer.
Honourable Member for Hull-Aylmer. When the government announced the renewal of the homelessness partnering strategy, we understood what that meant. Fewer resources and more work for community organizations. In my riding of Hull-Aylmer, a group of nonprofit organizations filed an application, and Service Canada recommended that they push the start date of the project back to December 1st. Well, today's December 1st, and still no answer. Can the Minister explain why Service Canada is not even capable of respecting its own timelines?
Mr. Speaker, that member is absolutely wrong. We have renewed and increased our investment in homelessness with our homelessness partnering strategy with a focus on housing first. I'm sorry that the NDP don't agree with housing first, which is an evidence-based model for addressing homelessness. Mr. Speaker, if that member would like to have specific information about a specific project, question period is not the time to ask about it. Come to me, we can talk about it when we have more than 35 seconds to answer a question.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, it would be fun if we could get real answers during question period. Community groups were very worried about the change in direction of the homelessness partnering strategy. When we asked the Minister, she personally confirmed that all the money would be spent in Phase 2 of the program. They had to be completed by March 31st, 2015, but many of them have not yet received funding. Are the Conservatives trying once again to save money on the backs of the homeless? The Honourable Minister of State.
Speaker, through you to that member, All of that money is there. I told that member that I would explain the way this process worked to her. She didn't bother coming to my office. She's not interested in real explanations because, Mr. Speaker, she doesn't want to know the answer. The funding is there for the homelessness partnering strategy. It's all there. We're funding it throughout the country. We're expecting great results through our Housing First initiative. If she truly is interested, I would be very happy to meet with you.
Just remind the honourable member to address her comments through the chair, not directly at her colleagues. And now we have the honourable member for St. Paul's.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Auditor General severely criticized the complete lack of transparency in Nutrition North and reported it's not even designed to make food more accessible or affordable. This is what Northerners have been saying since the beginning. Northerners are fed up with the shameless government talking points calling this program a success. Will the government finally commit to working collaboratively with Northerners to design a transparent program that will help them feed their families?
The Honourable Minister of Aboriginal Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated earlier, indeed, the Department will implement the Auditor General recommendations in order to build on the effectiveness of this program, which, as I indicated, has already provided beneficial results for those communities, and we will continue in that direction.
The Honourable Member for St. Paul's.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister should know that the Auditor General said the program wasn't effective. It's an abject failure. Rather than fixing it, ministers continue to defend the indefensible. Recent footage of residents in Rankin Inland scavenging for food at the dump didn't prompt the Environment Minister, their MP, to acknowledge the problem. Instead, she savagely attacked the community's deputy mayor for pointing it out. Rather than suing community leaders, this government finally deal with the reality? People in Northern Canada can't afford to feed their families.
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, those allegations are completely false. That a member has any evidence of that, I would encourage her to produce that evidence so that I can deal with it in the House, but they are absolutely false. What I can say under the food mail program, under the Liberal government, no one knew for 30 years that there was even a food subsidy going to the North. It was a Liberal decision to have the program fund an airline. The people in the North were the last thing on their minds was to subsidize an airline and to subsidize a community in Quebec, in Val-d'Or. There was nothing designed to support.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. According to the Victims Coalition, there are 10 new cases of pyrotype per week. 4,000 people are affected in Mauricie alone. Their homes are losing value and causing them health and debt problems. There have even been cases of suicide, Mr. Speaker. Victims are calling on elected officials to show solidarity. What is the government's answer? Will the Conservative government step up? The Honourable Minister of State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this honourable member well knows, the problem of pyrrhotite is under provincial jurisdiction. The Government of Quebec launched a program in order to offer financial assistance to the owners of people who have to cope with pyrrhotite damage. I urge people who have this problem to communicate with the Société d'Habitation du Québec. Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Pyrrhotite is an excellent example of a file where the Conservatives say one thing and do something different, and they believe themselves. And yet the government pledged several months ago to revise the federal standard for the aggregates used in concrete, but still no answer, which is typical, and yet the problem is growing. Every week the number of victims is increasing, and their situation is getting worse. Is the minister waiting for an election campaign to revise the federal standard and provide financial assistance to victims? Or will he show compassion and responsibility now? The Honourable Minister of State.
Mr. Speaker, I'm now going to answer this in English because when I answered it in French, it seemed to me that there was some miscommunication. So let me try this now in English, if I may, to you. Because this member knows full well that the parasite issue falls within the provincial jurisdiction, knows that very well. In fact, the government of Quebec, they launched a provincial program to provide financial assistance for homeowners dealing with pyrite damage in August 2011. And, Mr. Speaker, what I've said, and I'll say again, I urge those who are concerned about this to contact the Société d'Habitation de Québec. Merci, monsieur.
The Honourable Member for Medicine Hat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister of National Defence please provide the House with an update on Canada's latest contributions in the international effort to confront and degrade the military capabilities of the terrorist group ISIL? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The coalition campaign against ISIL continues, and as always, Canada is contributing. I can confirm our CF-18s participated in 2 separate missions since last Friday. Bombs were dropped on 2 ISIL positions. The military is currently examining the damage and will provide more detail in a technical briefing on Thursday. Now, the coalition effort against ISIL is necessary, it's just, and of course, we're doing our part. It's never been the Canadian way to stand on the sidelines and let others do the heavy lifting. We can take pride in the professionalism and courage of our Canadian Armed Forces.
The Honourable Member for West Ville Marie.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Veterans Affairs. Is the program that the government announced last week for $200 million over 6 years or over 50 years?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we have announced new initiatives designed to support the Canadian Armed Forces personnel, Canadian veterans and their families regarding their mental health needs. And, for example, major new operational stress injury clinics will be open in Halifax, and as well, Mr. Speaker, along with additional satellite clinics in St. John's, in Chicoutimi, in Pembroke, Brockville, Kelowna, Victoria, and Montreal, and an expanded clinic in Toronto, Mr. Speaker.
Very good.
Honourable Member for Brossard-Prairie. Another victory, Mr. Speaker. We made the Conservatives back down. The replacement bridge will keep the name of Champlain. And now that this artificial debate is over, and while the government is still listening to reason, or at least it appears so, will the minister listen Quebec, which is speaking with one voice, and abandon its plan of imposing a toll? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. As I said recently, Mr. Speaker, the NDP, they think even if it snows, it's because of them. It's always the same. Mr. Speaker, they said that we backed down on something that was never even announced, when a position wasn't even taken. Obviously, they tried and get any little victory, but we're going to continue to build a new bridge, and we're going to do it on time. It'll be delivered in 2018.
St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, 25 years ago this Saturday, at Montreal's École Polytech, a gunman walked into the school and murdered 14 bright young women. This week, Canadians across the country will be donning white ribbons to commemorate the tragic loss of these women and mark our country's commitment to ending violence against women. As we begin to honour these victims this week, could the Minister for the Status of Women address this House as to what Canadians can do to help ensure acts such as this never happen again?
The Honourable Minister for the Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While we cannot and probably never will be able to make sense of these heinous crimes that took place on that day, the moms, daughters, sisters, and friends lost and harmed were deliberately targeted. Violence against women and girls affects all of us. It takes a heavy toll on our communities. It destroys lives and weakens the very fabric of our Canadian society. This week is much about remembrance, as it is about a call to action on education, proactive, raised awareness, and it will, I hope, bring an end to violence against women and girls. Everyone, every one of us has the power to have an impact. All Canadians must.
The
The honourable member for Louis-Hébert. Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the Federal Minister of Infrastructure put on quite a show to tell us that he is prepared to pay the $75 million to repaint the Quebec Bridge, only if CN does too. The press conference was barely over when CN refused to pay the other half of the bill. So no CN, no paint. So we're back to square one. Now, what is the minister's plan? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Well, that's interesting, Mr. Speaker. This member says that it is because of him that has happened, but then when there's a partner who doesn't go ahead, it's our fault. So I just will never understand that, Mr. Speaker. Once again, we're going to continue to work with our partners. We know, Mr. Speaker, that since the very beginning, everyone knows that the bridge belongs to CN. With the partners, the City of Quebec, the City of Lévis, and the Government of Quebec, we on our side will continue to work and to put pressure on the CN so that it paints the bridge because it belongs to CN. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, according to the Quebec Finance Minister, the increase in childcare fees through a special tax families will have to pay when they file their tax return, rather than an increase in the base rate, will be offset by Ottawa through an increase in the federal tax deduction for child care. Can the Minister of Finance confirm that he will make the additional tax that will be paid by thousands of Quebec parents when they fill out their tax return for the federal tax deduction for child care? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, we continue to work with our provincial and territorial partners on these matters. I would like to confirm that the CRA officials are actively consulting with Revenue Quebec with regard to these childcare deductions. Because of the measures taken by our government, Mr. Speaker, 4 million families will benefit from a number of tax breaks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to follow up on the question that was just asked by the Honourable Member for Westmount Ville-Marie to the Minister of Veterans Affairs. It was a really clear question. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister for Veteran Affairs tell us whether the $200 million is to be spent over 6 years or 50 years? If the Minister respects our veterans, he'll give a clear answer.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that our veterans and their families deserve the very best care possible. Our Conservative government will always ensure veterans' mental health support is available for them today, tomorrow, and for the rest of their lives, Mr. Speaker. And it would be irresponsible to do otherwise. Mr. Speaker, this government, as announced, is delivering on priorities for our veterans by moving forward with opening 8 new specialized mental health facilities next year and other mental health assistance and support for themselves and their families, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Verchères-les-Patriotes. Mr. Speaker, the new regulation on the effluent from wastewater treatment systems establishes national standards that will require a major upgrading or replacement of some one quarter of wastewater treatment systems in Canada. According to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, this will entail a cost of some $18 billion. For many municipalities, the costs of this new standard put them before a dilemma. They either have to increase taxes or put aside essential infrastructure projects for their economy. The creation of a federal fund in which local and provincial governments would participate would help communities to respect the standards. Will the government say yes to the request of the FCM and create this fund? The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague knows well, we are delivering on the biggest infrastructure fund in the history of Canada. Now, wastewater treatment is eligible under the Gas and Excise Tax Fund, and I would remind my colleague that in Quebec, for all municipalities, and my colleagues across the way have been here for 3 years, so they should know it is the Government of Canada who gives priority to these files and not the federal government.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members, the presence in the gallery, of His Excellency Speaker Tan Sri Pandakar, Speaker of the House of Representatives of Malaysia. And as a Member of Parliament from Saskatchewan, I hope members will indulge me, as I am pleased to hear that residents of Saskatchewan's most famous small town, Dog River, are making a return, this time to the big screen, and I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the cast and crew of Corner Gas, the movie, Brent Butt, Eric Peterson, Gabrielle Miller, Fred Evaniuk, Tara Spencer-Nairn, Lauren Cardinal, Virginia Thompson, David Story, and Rob DeLynn. Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents. Introduction of government bills. Déclaration de ministres.
Statements by ministers.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations. Presenting reports from committees. The Honourable Member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Oh, Rob. Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present in both official languages the 8th report of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage in relation to Bill S-211, National Health and Fitness Day. The committee has studied the bill and has decided to report the bill back to the House without amendment. Good job.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour to present in both official languages the 27th report of the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs, requesting an extension of 30 sitting days to consider motion 428 on electronic petitions. And if the House gives its consent, I intend to move concurrence in the 27th report later today.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Centre. The Honourable Member for